Sometimes when you take an image with your camera, you'll find some very hot spots in it or areas where there's too much shadow. You can adjust that as well as what's known as the midtone or gamma with an adjustment called levels. And as always, it lives in the new adjustment panel. So we can go to Window, Adjustments if you don't see it over here, and then it opens up this dialog box. The first thing we can do, of course, is determine what parts of the image we want to work on. We can work on RGB to affect all the pixels at the same time, the red channel, the green, and or the blue. We can also have Photoshop do an auto levels for us, and we can also do it ourselves using these eyedroppers. So we can click on one of these guys and tell Photoshop where we like the brightest part of the image to be, or the black point, or the white point with this guy, or the gamma with the middle one. This guy in the middle is called our histogram. And we can see these little mountain ranges here that pretty much tells us the distribution of the pixels in the image. On the left we have the dark pixels, and on the right we have the light pixels, and in the middle we have the gamma, or the midtones. You can use these sliders to change how the pixels look in the image as well. For example, if I click on this slider and I move it all the way over, see what happens? What I'm doing is I'm pretty much affecting the red pixels in the image because I have the red channel selected. Let's see what happens when I go to RGB. As I move the slider, I'm redistributing the pixels, because what happens is you're telling Photoshop that everything past this little slider to the left is going to be clipped to darkness. So I want everything past here to be really dark. So I'm going to keep going, and I'm making the image darker and darker. Likewise, I can do the same thing by going in the opposite direction. So I can tell the image that everything to the right of this slider I want to go to white, or very, very bright. Alright, and now for a quick nuclear explosion on the picture. That's just so wrong. But I watched 24, so that fits in perfectly. I'm waiting for Jack Bauer to come in and save the cat. So once again, you're telling Photoshop to make everything that's to the right of the slider hit the lighter areas. And likewise, you can tell Photoshop that everything to the left of this slider should be dark. And the gamma slider allows you to adjust the midtones. So that's pretty much all you're doing when you're dealing with levels. Once again, you can do everything in RGB, or you could choose a channel to adjust. You can also use these eyedroppers. So let's say I want to tell Photoshop what I want to be considered as the brightest point in the image. I'll click on this eyedropper, and I'll click on a neutral area. Chances are good that you don't want to pick the brightest part of the image. So you don't want to go to the whitest part or the darkest part. So I'm going to choose right about here. Notice how the image shifts a little bit? It gets really nice and subtle. I'll do the same thing with this guy. I'm not going to choose the soil because it's too dark. So I'll choose something maybe in this tree, dark part of this leaf. Oh, it looks so much better already. And I can grab a midtone, so I'll click the wall. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the before and after. So I'll go to Layers, and I'll hide that adjustment. Look at the difference. Let me hide the curves earlier that I did. So this is before. Everything's pretty much the same color. A lot of yellow, a lot of green. But with those levels, I'm able to get a nice contrast. All the colors are coming out really nice. So once again, when you use those eyedroppers, try not to choose the brightest or the darkest points, because the image is going to shift in a way that's not very realistic. As always, you can hide it, and you can delete that adjustment if you're not happy with it. Your pixels remain unharmed in your image.